Welcome, everyone in the United States, Canada, and around the world to another episode of It's a Wrap with Rap, the podcast of overcomers and useful information to better our lives and our mental spirit. I am your host, Ron Rapaport. Let me start off by thanking all of our great listeners, viewers, supporters, and sponsors for helping to make this podcast such a success. We are being heard on all major platforms and the podcast website, it's a wrap with rap.com. Now you can find all the episodes, previews of future episodes, and great products and services offered from our sponsors on the website. Also, you can view all the episodes on our podcast YouTube channel, It's a Wrap with Rap, the podcast uncut. My guest today is Dr. Jan Melky Schwartz. Jan received a BS in education from Valparaiso University, and her master's and doctoral degrees from the University of Pittsburgh. Jan is considered to be one of the most theoretically minded, hopeful, and knowledgeable professionals in the fields of criminology, forensic behavioral science, intelligence, and homeland security. She is a nationally certified psychologist, board certified clinical psychotherapist, as well as a speaker and international best-selling author. Jan is presently completing a new nonfiction book, Authentic Intelligence: How to Use Your Mental, Emotional, and Spiritual Gifts to Create the Life and World You Want, and is here to explain authentic intelligence to us. A forever believer in the potential of humanity, Jan cares deeply about helping individuals, families, communities, states, and all nations as they strive to thrive, heal, and further their growth and effectiveness. Welcome, Jan, to the podcast. What a pleasure it is to have you here.
I'm honored to be here, and a warm hello to you and to all of your listeners.
Well, thank you. We're being heard all around the world. Now, Jan, can you please tell us a little bit about yourself and how you stepped into the work you do? I know that you worked with children and families for 17 years, teaching kindergarten, grades 1, 7, and 8, coordinated a gifted program for middle school youngsters, and worked as a child counselor at a domestic shelter prior to receiving graduate training to become a family psychologist.
Yes, here I am, a forensic behavioral scientist and president of Forensic Fraud Research Incorporated, whose specialty is white collar organized crime. So let me take a few steps back to tell you how this. Uh, I'm actually someone who's perhaps lived three lives in one. But I grew up in a suburb of Chicago and vividly recall photos of Mayor Richard Daley and organized crime figures, all who wore fedoras, on the cover of the Sunday Chicago Tribune. And this was something that was a part of our living room and on the coffee table every Sunday. And there was a respect for Mayor Daley because although no one spoke of it, there was a keen realization that organized crime was alive and well, but yet the city of Chicago was a safe place to visit. And somehow, I, as a young girl, was absorbing that Mayor Daley managed all the power struggles and turf issues, and there was a renowned respect for him. But at the same time, I was fueled by very creative, loving, and highly intelligent elementary teachers who nurtured me with deep affection and provided me with leadership opportunities. So, yes, the natural thing was for me to become an elementary teacher. And yes, grad school to become a family psychologist. But importantly, my postdoctoral internship was with criminal kids at a residential treatment facility. And when it was completed, I relocated to Northeast Ohio to marry my husband. And finally, I was in the position where I was going to be able to open my family therapy clinic. And I was so excited about this. This had been a long term goal of mine.
And that was a free family therapy clinic.
Yes, yes, we'll insert that. It was just part of how I wanted to do it. Since I'm such a frontline person, I just wanted to get to the heart of every family and be there for them.
So my next question, I kind of led into it, is you catapulted to this career in forensic fraud research.
Yes,
How did that occur? And let me ask you, can you tell us about
yes.
some of the interesting cases you worked on in that arena, if you're allowed to do so?
What I will say to you is because I had worked frontline with these kids and their families, I was very fresh with awareness. I had a very highly attuned awareness about criminal patterns. And to my great surprise, upon entry into this community, I began to hear very dark secrets, and many people wanted to share information with me. And after I was listening to things and at social events, people would come up to me and they trusted me with their stories. I'm assuming that because I was a psychologist, that they knew I would keep their secret. But others around who had very powerful positions noticed that people were coming to me, and I was noticing that their faces were changing in their feelings toward me. And it was then that security incidents began to occur. And I don't mean little incidents. I mean, for example, I can remember a time where I had to drive my husband for some conference or for some speaking engagement. He had to, I dropped him off at the airport and I needed to return home. When I came home, came in the house, all of a sudden everything was cut to blackness, to darkness, and someone actually was on our outside of our property and had cut the main source of electricity. I was attempts to run me off the road. There were three occurrences of that, and it's
Wow.
thanks to the truck drivers on certain routes that pulled. They saw yeah, all of the action happening. They pulled and separated so that I could move in and get off the road. I have so many incidents about this, but what the real motivating force for me needing to dig further into this, I received a visit from a Fortune 500 company chairman of the board who wore a fedora. His two sons were with him, and they're mafioso. And I was interrogated for 25 minutes. And I mean, it's an interrogation with people of this doing and this kind of mindset. It's extremely brutal. It's very harsh. It's very terse. And here I was. I remember saying to myself, you just stand up. You're 5'7" tall. So glad you wore your highest heels. And I did all of this pep talk to myself while I handled their questions, which were they wanted to know what I was doing in their community and what family I was representing, which of course was ludicrous to me. And I took it very seriously. I had a firm voice, managed the hostility okay. But what I knew from that moment on was that I needed to step in and dig into this. I knew these patterns clearly were not normal. And so I began to do some research. And what I discovered bothered me greatly, greatly. And it was one of those moments where I'm a person who lives with principles, and I knew I needed to do the right thing. And eventually, I reached out to the authorities. And interestingly, the information, the documentation that I brought them was important to state and federal officials. And soon I was regularly sharing large numbers of boxes of data. And it's now 32 years later. And using my forensic and psychology expertise, I have compiled data for and provided information to the HIDA Money Laundering Division of the FBI in Manhattan, the FBI in Washington, D.C., the CIA, the Defense Intelligence Agency, the Criminal Investigation Division of the IRS, US DOJ's Justice Television Network, the US Department of Health and Human Services, the National Science Foundation, the US Postal Inspection Service, the Ohio Organized Crime Investigations Division, oh, many other Ohio offices, 19 state departments, and various U.S. Attorney's Office. So I guess what I'm saying by that is this was how I discovered my calling. And my heart for so long was longing for stepping into my dream of working with families. And those who knew me in that role were greatly puzzled as to what was going on. And yet, every door was opening for me, unusual opportunities from the federal authorities to they invited me to places, secret places, to teach me and show me more, and they were my supervisors. So it's how are we to know when we start out as young children? And as I mentioned, some of my earliest recollections, who would ever have thought that the picture that I was seeing on the coffee table on the Chicago Tribune would be something that was so familiar to me that later on in life I would be seeing it right in front of me, and I didn't run away. I had Mayor Daley as my role model, and uh, so these are just some reflections of the mystery and the wonderment that I have to this day as to how it is that
Yeah, I mean,
this unfolded.
that's just amazing how you go from one arena to just
Yeah.
another. But that's how life happens. I
Yes.
mean, now if you were to find me 5 years ago and tell me I would be a podcaster, I would be laughing in your face. Like, what are you talking about? But things happen. Our previous guest and podcast supporter, Mike Aronson, has written his book, Whatever, which will inspire you to make your life better, help others, bring you lots of smiles and laughs, and you will say to yourself, I didn't know that. Oh, is that so? Now that's funny. The book is an accumulation of over 20 years and really a lifetime of Mike's observations, situations, experiences, and opinions that he has witnessed and experienced, and many you have had as well. The word whatever is mostly used when one cannot come up with an answer or when they feel they cannot control something or they do not know what to say. So people just shrug their shoulders and say whatever. The book has no chapters and no real organization or flow. If there was, it would not be whatever. Whatever is a book about you. Whatever will help you in your daily life. Whatever will also help you to help others. The key element of whatever is to help yourself first and then for you to pass it on to others. We are just a world of people helping people, and sometimes we need a little help. After reading the book, maybe you will be able to look at your life differently. Whatever will help you to do that and for you to help someone else. Remember what they say and tell you on an airplane. Secure your own oxygen first before helping others. Enjoy reading the book and have some laughs and smiles along the way. The book is available online at Amazon, Barnes& and Noble, and Walmart.com in paperback and ebook format. Information about the book will be listed in the podcast notes. And I'm glad that you got that calling and all the excellent work you did. So you are here today to talk about authentic intelligence, not to be confused with artificial intelligence. So we want, could you please, for our audience who may not have ever heard of authentic intelligence, uh, could you define it and tell us how you got interested in that subject?
Well, there's always a story when it comes with me. I have to let you know that there were three conversations that I had over the years that hinted to me that how I worked was somewhat different from others. And the first happened during my exit interview at the residential treatment facility when my supervisor asked me what I felt it was that I did with the criminal kids and their families that impacted them so greatly. And I responded with, well, Sue, I truly loved those kids and their families. But she smiled, but her face indicated that she felt there was more to it. The second moment came a few years later during a conversation with some federal agents. And they asked me, Jan, how is it that you do your work? Why is it that every project you bring to us turns into a case? This time I responded with, I have eyes that see. I have a sixth sense. The third conversation came when I was promoting my first book last summer with Oscar. This book was so hard to write because it detailed the joys and sorrows of our golden retriever's discovery of his own cure for his cancer. So to cheer myself, I began to post creative tips on my Facebook page. And to my surprise, many of my Facebook friends began to enjoy them. So during a conversation with a Facebook friend who also had been an Associated Press bureau chief, he asked this question of how are you coming up with these tips that everyone was enjoying? What came out of my mouth completely surprised me. I said, well, Dan, imagine three interrelated circles. The top left represents mental intelligence or IQ. The second to the right represents emotional intelligence or EQ. And below it is a circle that represents spiritual intelligence or SQ. The area common to all three circles is where I find my knowing. And he said, to my great surprise, write that down. That's your next book. And that area today, common to all three circles, is what I now refer to as authentic intelligence or AI plus. And so my new book, Authentic Intelligence, How to Use Your Mental, Emotional, and Spiritual Gifts to Create the Life and World You Want, introduces the concept of the three interrelated circles and the concept of authentic intelligence or AI plus. And authentic intelligence or AI plus is a very exciting intelligence. It's the area common to all three intelligences. It is the convergence of our three intelligences that creates within us this highly capable energy field. It's where the best of ourselves is stored. It's what we can draw upon and what we can rely upon to revitalize us and help us.
Okay, so you listed three areas of intelligence that comprise authentic intelligence. Let me go over that. That's mental intelligence, IQ, emotional intelligence, EQ, spiritual intelligence, SQ, which may be a relatively new concept for our listeners. Now, authentic intelligence is what you're telling me is the convergence area common to all three to make a positive energy field. Would that be correct?
It's even more than that. It's a highly capable energy field.
Okay. Can you
It is.
can you
Mhm.
explain to us so we can understand their importance and how it can help us? That is the three intelligence, IQ, EQ, and SQ.
Let's begin with mental intelligence because we're likely most familiar with IQ
Okay.
or mental intelligence, which is linked to our ability to understand complex ideas, to adapt effectively to the environment, to learn from experience, to reason, to overcome obstacles by thinking them through, and so on. This ability may change in different situations or over the lifespan. Depression, anxiety, and trauma can mask our mental ability. Your mental intelligence is leading you when you pick up the phone to make your dentist or doctor appointments, when you realize it's time to schedule your car maintenance session, or learn to work your new washer or dryer. It's working when you put your friends and family birthday reminders in your year-long calendar, when you type an address into your GPS and when you balance your checkbook. It's an action when you select an insurance policy, complete a college application, or read and understand knitting instructions to make a new sweater. Now, we feed mental intelligence. We nurture it, we improve it, we can increase our mental intelligence by pondering famous quotes, reading articles and books, or by listening to voices that are reading them. We feed our mental intelligence by listening to interesting lectures or continuing education courses that present ideas different from our own thoughts, or by becoming fascinated and furthering our knowledge and understanding of anything and all things. You see, Ron, living with just thoughts alone will not bring us to a full appreciation of life or the full expression of our gifts. It doesn't happen that way. Living with thoughts alone creates a truly lonely experience for authentic human beings.
Okay. Let's go over EQ and SQ though.
EQ, or emotional intelligence,
Yeah.
refers to the ability to identify and manage our emotions as well as the emotions of others. And I'm going to say that
Our podcast guest and supporter, Canadian Danny Covey, has written an exceptional book titled Scar Tissue. Danny has survived 8 heart operations, 4 of which were open heart surgeries, and nearly died on the operating table 3 times. Danny was repeatedly told that he would never excel physically, and after much blood, sweat, tears, and prayer, he is still here with us, alive and well, and has fulfilled his childhood dream despite being told it was an impossibility. Scar Tissue is a story that runs the gamut from operating rooms to martial arts dojos. One might think a story about surviving multiple open heart surgeries would be devoid of levity. But fear not, Danny mixes tragedy, levity, and wisdom with assurance. Danny is like a librarian that is also a secret cage fighter. His love and dedication to martial arts amidst his health challenges suggests a mantra of float like a butterfly, sting like a bee, and if your heart fails, surgery number 3. Everyone has been through something, meaning this book about medical issues does not relate to just those with the same condition. Danny has gleaned the lessons from his unfortunate circumstances to make it accessible for any other person facing trials in their life. Danny challenges the reader to share their own story and choose to become the victor rather than the victim and become part of other people's survival guide. It is a must-buy for anyone who thought it was a miracle they ever made it to adulthood. If you know someone who needs to hear a feel-good, true story, buy them this book. Each time they must put it down, they will have a smile on their face. Read this book and you will probably keep thinking about it for a while. At least you should be. The book is available in paperback and ebook format from Amazon and Barnes& Noble. Information about the book will be listed in the podcast notes.
again, because there's a whole lot behind here. Emotional intelligence refers to the ability to identify and manage our emotions as well as the emotions of others. Now, this concept has been around for a long time. Aristotle said, anyone can be angry, that's easy. But to be angry with the right person, to the right degree, at the right time, for the right reason, for the right purpose, and in the right way, that is not easy. It was Daniel Goleman's groundbreaking book that was published in 1995 titled Emotional Intelligence: Why It Matters More Than IQ that brought this phenomenal concept into the awareness of the world. Now, I also want to share with you and your listeners that there were two other people very significant to this field, two researchers by the name of Salovey and Mayer. And in 1990, a few years, 5 years before Dan Goleman's work was published, they determined the 5 key personal and interpersonal skills involved in emotional intelligence. And I find this fascinating because people say, oh, that person's has really strong emotional intelligence skills. But do most people really know what all of that means? So I'm eager to share this with you. The first key area is self-awareness. Now, this refers to understanding who you are and how and why you do the things you do. It's about knowing your strengths and weaknesses. It's also about knowing or developing an understanding of whether you can depend on yourself to handle an array of situations. We call that self-efficacy.
Okay.
The second is self-regulation. Now, this is also an interesting area because it refers to having the ability to manage your impulses. So it's about whether you can talk yourself out of acting on your anger. Are you able to delay gratification instead of needing an immediate reward? What about not needing to be a winner every time? Are you that way? And are you able to make mature choices? That's what self-regulation is about. The third category is a little bit easier to understand. This one is motivation, and it's simply what drives you, what motivates you. Are you driven toward goals that will benefit you for a lifetime or for temporary gain? Which of the two? And where are these goals leading you? We can see what emotional intelligence is leaning to is the more broader, the more mature choice. The next, we also hear this word a lot. The word is empathy. This is the fourth key area. And empathy refers to the ability to relate and care about the well-being of others. It's about being sensitive to others' feelings and needs. And simply, it's about treating others in ways we would like to be treated, like we grew up maybe learning the golden rule. And the fifth area is also a fun one and an important one. It's social skills. In your life so far, you can examine and think about how much time have you spent interacting with others? Do you enjoy connecting with others? Do you like people? Learning how to connect with individuals from different parts of the country or around the world and different cultures is richly rewarding. Is that something that you're interested in? Do you have the skills to get along with people in most situations? Do people trust you? Are you able to pick up on cues in situations that indicate things are escalating for the worse? And do you have the ability to work things backward into a clear, safer focus? That comprises, those are the areas that comprise the wide, important world of emotional intelligence. But in one sentence, we can summarize it by saying emotional intelligence is about reading others, and it's about reading us, ourselves.
Yeah, that makes sense from what you're telling me. As far as we have to be cognizant of our emotions and the other person's emotions.
Yes,
Now, can you talk a little bit about spiritual?
yes, absolutely. Spiritual intelligence, or SQ, many
Yeah.
people haven't heard of this. And it's based on an underpinning of spirituality, which is different from being a religious person. And I want to say that some people are spiritual and they don't go to church. Okay. Some people go to church and they're spiritual. And some people go to church and they're not spiritual. Spirituality is a different source of strength. Um, Dana Zohar and Ian Marshall are two big names in this field, and they wrote a book, Spiritual Intelligence, The Ultimate Intelligence, published in 2012, and they offer us a definition. They call it the soul's intelligence. It's the intelligence with which we heal ourselves and with which we make ourselves whole. SQ allows human beings to be creative, to change the rules, and to alter situations. It allows us to play with the boundaries, to play an infinite game. Dana Zohar is an American British author, and she speaks on physics, philosophy, all these other topics. Okay. She has a website, danazohar.com. And if your listeners, if you or your listeners would like to delve more deeply into it, she has identified 12 principles within spiritual intelligence, and she can. It's a deeper, more lengthy discussion
Okay.
and review, something for a later point. But there's another author, Ken O'Donnell, who has offered a very simple explanation about SQ's usefulness. It provides the means for us to maintain our inner balance. So when we think about how if we've had a day that's really been a difficult one and challenging lots of difficult things, and we come home and here's a little person who's tugging at you, and you have to start cooking dinner and all of that. And how does a mom, how does a dad pull it all together and keep going, even though they want to keep thinking about what happened to them with their day? Well, they were drawing upon their spiritual intelligence. It was helping them maintain their inner balance and switch into the other productive zone. Speaking personally, I have developed spiritual intelligence because I've been drawn to it since a young child. And while we all know, or maybe most of us know, that we are all created by a loving God, no matter what faith we may believe or not believe in. But God is the Father of all of us. But in my situation, I viewed God as my Father. It became just something that it just became a part of my thought processes, and I identified with it so. And it has a lot to do with those wonderful teachers that I had. They presented me with such deep affection and such most perfect positioning of love. And it just lined up with viewing God as my Father. So my approach and how I weave spiritual intelligence into my day or into my life is going to be different because I've been practicing it for so long. I've been feeding that intelligence
Right.
so many years. But for those who right now are thinking, how can I possibly begin this? Because I would like to start thinking about growing and developing in ways.
Right. And which led into my next question is you just explained the three interrelated circles, but help us understand how can the people out there listening to this tap into this authentic intelligence, and can it be used on a daily basis in what areas of our life?
It certainly can. And with spiritual intelligence, what I want everyone to know is for those just beginning to think about developing their their SQ, a good way to begin is to enjoy nature. Notice the birds, the sky, the clouds, the sunrise, sunset, the amazing array of animals that live among us, the trees. Begin to think of nature as a world of developing new friendships. Do you care about your trees? There are many people out there who have a friendship with their trees in their yard. Can you relate to the
Sure.
strength and the ability of a tree to endure from a summer of very little rain and with winds that make it bend to and fro? They are a source of extreme, um, extremely beautiful source of inspiration for all of us. And that moves on to displaying acts of kindness, the courage to break from the crowd and who hate what is good, and so on. But yes, authentic intelligence can be used daily. But we're covering so many concepts that I want to go over again. The important visualization, if everybody can do this with me, if you
Okay.
can just draw in the sky or draw in the air the three interrelated circles, how mental intelligence, emotional intelligence, and spiritual intelligence converge.
Right.
And we think about that area common to all three, and that is authentic intelligence. It is the beautiful and brightly colored center that reflects the richness of wisdom. And it is the rich ability that you have, that we have as humanity, we have gathered and collected from our years of living and all of the feeding of our other intelligences. So this again is where the best of ourselves.
The podcast is so happy and proud to have Blue Sky CBD as one of our sponsors and supporters. At Blue Sky CBD, they know that the highest quality CBD starts from the seed. Blue Sky partners with sustainable, responsible farms for superior hemp plants to extract their CBD and other healthful phytonutrients. Each of Blue Sky's products contain high concentrations of CBD for maximum impact, and Blue Sky offers some of the lowest cost per milligram CBD on the market. All Blue Sky's products are THC free and are tested by a third party laboratory for potency and purity. All this has made Blue Sky one of the only CBD brands trusted by healthcare professionals across the United States. As the demand for CBD and its therapeutic potential have grown rapidly worldwide, it is difficult to know which products you can trust. At Blue Sky CBD, they just don't sell their products, they use their products. Blue Sky CBD proudly shares testimonials of their loved ones who use these products. Blue Sky CBD guarantees the potency and purity of each and every product they sell. Blue Sky tests their products 3 times. First, the plant is tested, next, the isolate, and last, the final product to ensure each product batch meets Blue Sky's high standards. A copy of the certificate of analysis is linked below each product description online. The Blue Sky CBD website contains client testimonials, including a case study for each testimonial from the people just like you regarding people dealing with severe anxiety and insomnia, high blood pressure, pain management, headache, rheumatoid arthritis and spondylitis, and endocrine balance. Blue Sky even makes the product Pet Love for our canine and feline family members. Blue Sky CBD uses CBD derived from hemp that is THC free, which is drug free and can be sold everywhere legally in the United States. Blue Sky CBD wants you to feel confident with your purchase and offers you excellent customer service. If you are not satisfied with their products, you may request a refund of the full purchase price within 30 days of the product received date. When ordering, please use the podcast link to receive 20% off your initial purchase. The link and website information will be listed in the podcast notes.
It's is stored and what we can rely upon to revitalize us and help us with what, though, you might say, to discover better ideas, solutions, to create better decisions regarding the problems that we're facing every day. Because you see, Ron, it's within our inner world, home to our three intelligence, that the fourth intelligence is lifted up, and that is our authentic intelligence. And it is just waiting to be activated. And it develops naturally. You don't have to do anything. It's already in process. It's the mystery of how our inner world works. And it's the beautiful, powerful way that our inner world works. But as we grow more and more comfortable with are experiencing new and interesting activities, we are led into ways to tap into this force, and it just happens naturally. It's a skill that grows and we improve upon every day by just stepping out further into the world and welcoming in new ideas and new experiences. So just imagine.
So it's not something we have to think about.
No, it happens. Just live.
It just happens.
Have an experience. Be open to life. Be open to new things. Be
Okay.
open to feeding your mental intelligence, your emotional intelligence. All those things we covered. Your spiritual intelligence. Work on all three. Add new things to it. You're
Okay.
going to feel so good inside. And you see, we can tap into the best of ourselves then when we need it within a second's pause. We can tap into that renewed and empowered energy, that capability, because of the constant exposure to new and wonderful ideas. And we hear a lot of people say they're lifelong learners. Oh, yes, you see, they have been feeding their intelligences. So, this is what we need to do. We need to keep feeding our intelligences, and we feed our authentic intelligence by developing and experiencing new and stimulating activities in those three circles:
Right.
mental, emotional, and spiritual. So please don't ever think that time is wasted in experiencing new and stimulating activities, no matter whether you're enjoying them or not. Because guess what? The results can be trusted. This process can be trusted. All that stimulation is going into the creation of a stronger, more capable, authentic intelligence that you can tap into. And along the way, hearts will be warmed, passions will be stirred, and lessons will be learned by all the gathering of the new experiences. So, what's very interesting, I find this. The more I got into this, the more I realized what I was doing is this is an ever increasing force that has zero burnout. And the more you tap into it, guess what? The more you want to do it again and again. So, in order to do it again and again, just keep on strengthening, feeding your mental
You have to
intelligence.
feed it. Yeah. Yeah.
You just
You have to feed it.
you have to feed it, and it happens. And so your choices, and when emergencies come up, you're going to handle things differently, and people are going to say, wow, you handled that well. A situation comes up and you have to make a decision that's very, very critical to your future. Okay. You're going to be pulling on all that wisdom that you've been storing up.
So what are some of the ways to harness authentic intelligence to inspire and lead?
Well, we by tapping into it, uh, situations will come up. It's we can create a hypothetical situation where someone a situation comes up for the family and they're saying, oh my goodness, I can't get this product, and someone else says, and the family says, well, why don't we try this substitute, and it ends up working even better. So a family together can feed the experience field, can feed into the intelligence by sharing their own wisdom. It is a matter of connecting. It is, we lead better when we are stepping into a three-prong approach. And
Right.
if we're putting in a speech, or if we're placed into a new leadership role of an organization or a family structure, we have to remember we have to pull on each of those three areas: mental, emotional, and spiritual, to bring together our best ideas, our best decisions. It will happen if we keep thinking. Don't stay stuck over here. Just don't say, okay, well, I already tried. I went to the store and they didn't have that product. Okay, you come home and say, I couldn't find it. What? That's only one. That was only one of the three. What about the other, the the other two. And so someone in the family, this is the most wonderful thing. I have all of these stories of what families have shared with me. So when a family may starts with something like this, and someone may come home and say, well, I couldn't find it. And then they plop their feet up on the couch and say, well, I tried and that's it. And then someone else comes by and says, well, why didn't you look here? What do you mean? And then the conversation starts and everyone starts coming in. So before you know it, the person who was propped up on the couch says, oh, I didn't think about that. Okay, I'll be back in a few minutes. I'm going to go out there and I'm going to look at that in that store. Comes back later and says it wasn't there, but I went to somewhere else, because you see, the discussion within the family didn't limit. It didn't limit and say, okay, that's it. I tried enough. I don't have to go any further. It almost becomes like a game within the self, and it can become a game in the family, and it's a very exciting energy field of discussion when a family is trying to solve a problem or create a better solution to a situation that they're facing. If the whole family together works on mental, emotional, and spiritual.
Okay, so that would be a way for us to get better at feeding our three intelligences.
Yes.
Now, this
Uh,
is I was going to say, this is a podcast of people overcoming. A lot of people out there are what we call our overcomers. What life events occurred to force you to be so determined to overcome?
from a young child on, I have been overcoming difficulties and disappointments and rejection. I longed to have children and sadly experienced 6 miscarriages. It's a sorrow that I manage. In my work, I experience profound rejection by powerful people who've been exposed, or they feel threatened by my actions as I fight against the spread of corruption. There are many security incidents that occur still to this day. I have 9 pages of situations that I have endured and overcome by the grace of God. So, overcoming is a way of life for me. It's my path of training. I guess it's the best way for me to explain it, that I no longer think of it as, okay, another hurdle. I just think of it as, okay, it's time for me. It's time for new training. So I learned to ask myself in moments like that, where there is a profound disappointment or I have to change the course of my hopes, that I say to myself, what else fuels your passion? What else fuels your desire to live in full expression of your gifts? So overcoming is, as I said, the flow of my life, but with the overcoming, it comes profound joy and an abundance of blessing. And I'm sure you know this, Ron.
Yeah.
Uh, I've had the most extraordinary experiences as a result of having so much to overcome. And each rejection and disappointment has fueled new achievements and discoveries. So it's something about life that we learn to flow with.
Now, every author has a reason for why they have written a book. What was your reason for writing the book coming out?
In a world where artificial intelligence is becoming more prevalent, we will need authentic intelligence to survive and thrive. We are wired to be authentic human beings. There are no artificial human beings. So, in this divided, broken world, I believe, I humbly hope that this book is a pathway forward. I have been born with a tremendous capacity to care, and I care about you, Ron. I care about all your listeners, and I fully believe in the ability of everyone who wants to try. It truly does not matter what you've been through or what you're going through now. This is a path that is fresh and renewing, and it's also fun. It's a new beginning. I have always loved new beginnings. It's a way to pull yourself up and move forward. And I want to say the day is ready to begin anew. Are you?
Awesome. That's great. Jan, for our listeners and viewers out there, they want to contact you. How do they go about contacting you?
My website is Jan Schwartz. That's SCHWARTZ .us, janschwartz.us.
Okay.
You could also find me on Facebook under Jan Milky Schwartz, and Milky is Mielke, and also on LinkedIn. I'd love to connect.
Awesome. All right.
I welcome hearing from anyone.
Okay. We will add that to the podcast notes. I want to thank you so much, Jan, for being on the podcast, sharing this important information for us to better our lives. And I wish you nothing but the best going forward. And I know we talked offline. The book's going to be coming out. And anything you want to add, if the podcast can help you out, you want to come back on the podcast and expound on this, you're always welcome.
Oh, I'm so deeply touched. Thank you from the bottom of my heart.
Well, thank you.
It's been
And
a
for every
privilege.
thank you. For everybody out there, comments and suggestions, you can email me at it's a wrap with rap at gmail.com. Our Facebook group is It's a Wrap with Rap. We have about 2,000 people in the group. Our Instagram is It's a Wrap with Rap Podcast. We are on X, or formerly Twitter, at Rapper, WRAPPER 130. Our YouTube channel is It's a Wrap with Rap, the podcast uncut. Do not forget about our website, it's a wrap with rap.com. And we just added a book nook for all our previous guests who have written books. You could refer to it for your book club or whatever, and all those books are available on Amazon. I want to thank everyone for listening or viewing. I want everyone to please stay safe. And for now, it's a wrap.